On today's episode of Open Box Policy, we're going to talk about science, pills, planes, anxiety, tampons, and haunted house festivals.
Moving right on. If you want to hit us up on our socials, we are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at OBP_raw.
Or to continue the conversation, go ahead and shoot us an email at obppodcast@gmail.com.
Yay!
I got my paper in front of me. I read it. But obviously you're stressed out because
it's crazy. And it's like I tell people all the time. I've told Jacqueline this numerous times. Like I know which is unbelievable that you don't really feel. Oh, this is a great topic. You know, you have told us before that you don't really feel anxiety,
right? Or
like you don't feel a lot of anxiety. My anxiety is so overwhelming that like things that I would normally find a lot of joy in, like I'm thinking about purchasing a new car, and that is. A new car to me, because I have been a car person my entire life, a car guy my entire life, and this is like a very special car to me. It's like a dream car. So, I mean, I should...
What kind of car it is?
Huh?
Can I ask what kind?
Yeah, it is a 2012 BMW 550i M Sport.
It sounds nice. I don't know anything about cars, but it sounds very nice.
You lost me at BMW.
Yeah.
Right after that is when there's so many numbers and letters, but the more numbers and letters makes it sound like better and better.
That's what I hate about it. I hate a lot of cars that have all this nomenclature. So basically what this is, it's a BMW 5 Series, which is a little bit bigger car. Okay. It's the sport version of that. So different wheels, suspension, and all that stuff. So it's kind of lower and it looks sporty and cool. And it has a huge engine in it. And 400 horsepower, 450 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, it's more than any human would ever need.
Yeah.
But it's like a fucking dream car. And I found an amazing deal on it. I'm really excited about it. And it's got a warranty.
Was it Kyle from the Kia place?
Yeah. Hey, man.
I got this car for you.
Yeah. I ended up going back to him. But so my anxiety is just like through the roof, and I can't even get excited about that. But this brings us, and I ended up having to go, like things just like don't bring me joy. And that's when I know that I've reached a point where it's unhealthy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I even went to a concert last night with my friend, a guy that I love, Tab Benoit. He's a blues singer. And I had a great time, but there were numerous times during it where I was just thinking about work, which is stupid. Did you all hear the story about the old Scottish lady that has never felt pain or anxiety?
So I started reading something about that, but I didn't read the whole article. I'm aware that it's a disorder because...
Genetic mutation.
Yes.
To be specific.
Because I brought this up in one other episode a long time ago because I thought Elle had it when she was a baby, and I had read an article about a little girl who had broken bones and her parents never knew, so I know it's super rare. But I started reading the article, and then I probably got busy with something, so I never finished it, but I started reading it.
So she doesn't feel physical or emotional pain?
So...
have to be both, right? If anxiety is one of them.
Yeah, if you don't feel anxiety, then I don't know. But here's ultimately what it is. It's one of the only known cases where someone would basically have the dual genetic mutation, where she has never been stressed out. She's never worried about anything in her entire life. She doesn't know what worry tastes like.
Wow.
She says that pain will actually, she can feel something. It's not like
but her brain
there's
doesn't
nothing
recognize
there.
it as
Like
pain.
she can feel the pressure. She can feel her bones like grinding, and she can feel these things. But when I think she mentions that it's almost like a tickle. Like she just kind of feels something odd.
Like an epidural.
So they started
just a little tickle, epidural.
Yeah.
When giving birth, having an epidural, you can feel pressure and you can feel things, but it doesn't hurt.
So she had her hip basically deteriorated to a point where she could barely walk, and they looked in there and said, "Oh my God, we can't believe that your hip is basically deteriorated. You need to have surgery." So she got out of surgery, or she was about to go into surgery, and she said, "I need no pain medicine, no pain meds, no morphine, no nothing. You don't have to do anything to me because I've never felt pain." And It blew their mind. So they brought these scientists in that started to study this woman, and they found out that she's got these 2 genetic mutations. Of course, they asked her, like, we want to really dig into your history. Well,
They said, hey, do you have these genetic mutations?
So she's never
Yeah.
come up on anybody's radar before this. I'm assuming
She's-
because of her hip, she's probably later in age.
she's a rural Scottish lady that I'm sure, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, that's an old lady that, doesn't feel any pain, but it's never just really been that big of a deal. And because
No,
she
it's
started having these major surgeries.
Jeez.
So they are basically reverse engineering her genetic mutations. And they are hoping that they will be able to turn that on and off in people that are about to have major surgeries. So instances of having to give them morphine and opiates, which are unbelievably addictive, will go down. And for people that suffer from the major anxiety disorder,
they can turn that down as well.
will
We're,
turn it down as well.
We're
I
getting
have
into
so-
dangerous territory here.
And
in
I
human
agree with
evolution.
Devin.
Yeah.
I agree with Devin.
For sure.
So I'm talking to this guy that I work with who's a genius, and we start joking around about it. He was like, "Man, that doesn't sound good to me." And I said, "Of course it doesn't, and here's why. Imagine a population of people that have no fear and feel no pain.
Jesus.
They would
Jesus
just-
Christ.
Yep. Number one, it would do 2 things. You would have a population of sheep that would just walk off cliffs, or they would just walk into things, or they would break their arms or legs, and of course, like they don't ever understand anxiety, so they just walk into very scary situations, and they are constantly getting hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, you have the people that would basically be nuts, and if they feel no pain and no fear, then everything they do is extreme, and then they start to do all kinds of probably horrible shit.
Well, just imagine being born into the generation that has always had that. Like how numb and horrible choices and psychopaths that would make, because they don't have that I shouldn't do this. This could hurt me. This could hurt other people mentality.
Yeah, I mean, my knees are all like, I've turned 40 years old. Basically my body fell apart. Like one of my knees is really swollen. It hurts, and like I have fear stepping off curbs because I'm afraid my knee's going to give out. And it's like, what if I didn't feel that pain or that anxiety?
You'd be skipping down the fucking road. You'd be doing lots of things, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, if that ever happens, empathy is going to go down the drain.
Exactly.
Because you don't know what it's like.
It's a weird philosophical situation.
Oh yeah, so it's gonna, if that happens, it's gonna start just like for good, like everything else has started, like in doctors and stuff, surgeries, severe depression, severe anxiety, stuff like that. It's gonna start out good, and then probably the military is gonna get their hands on it, use it for war, and then it's just gonna spread from there, and it's dangerous territory for sure.
Super dangerous.
I read a nurse practitioner friend of mine post this study, and they have found a way, which obviously it's many years off, to actually gauge if someone's in pain or not. And the point is, when they come into the hospital, to wave out people who are looking for drugs and who might not be. But the downside of it is that it only does it in that moment. So if you are having something like gallstones, which don't hurt all the time,
It comes and goes.
yeah, they will basically, that's a downside of the study. Well, right now you're not in pain. 15 minutes from now you could be, but
nothing's perfect either. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Science is imperfect by nature. I mean, there is no perfect science. I used to get in fights with my ex all the time. She would say, "Oh, science is so noble," and yada yada yada. And I'd say, "You have scientists that told us that the fucking Earth was flat. They made flat Earth maps, told us for years that the Earth was flat." And then finally, you have, whoever it was, Galileo, whoever the hell, that figured out that the Earth was round. And
Are you saying scientists are not perfect, or science is not perfect?
Both. So
I kind of disagree.
it's the scientists are basically making the science, and these people don't understand how a lot of things work, and then they just say, "Yeah, but that's just the way it is." I mean, this is a really long conversation.
Yeah,
but it is. But what I'm saying is that's what's so dangerous about this kind of stuff is that.
But you're saying that the scientists make the science, but the scientists are to study science.
I think scientists discover science. So in my opinion, science itself is perfect, but scientists as people
can be flawed.
are imperfect. Yeah.
when it comes to research, when it comes to
science
discovery.
in general, in my opinion, is flawed because every time you discover something, they're like, oh my God, look, we found XYZ.
But that's the scientists
it
who are
rewrites everything. And then all of a sudden we will end up kind of changing that. We found the ozone hole. Everyone said it was evil and awful and it was going to destroy the earth and then we had to do all these things. No one has talked about the ozone hole in 30 years.
But as to Devin's point is that the people who discovered that and said it was awful and evil were scientists. It wasn't the actual science that was making the whole evil. So it's scientists who are studying this and may not be doing it correctly, or their findings might not be great, or something like that.
Then let me rephrase it. I think science and the study of it is inherently flawed just because it's imperfect. It can't be perfect. Every time that we would say we know how the sun works, then we would end up figuring out something new about it. Every time that we would say that we figured out how the planets were made or the Big Bang or something, then we would figure out something new about it. And they would write books and teach everyone this is fact, and then we would figure out something new and go, oh, okay, we got to change that.
But that's just moving. That's just progressing. That's just people learning more stuff. You know what I mean? Like the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it. Oh, then now we learned this, and let's rewrite this.
But they don't leave it open to discussion. They tell everybody this is the way. This is the way that it is, and then we rewrite it, and then we rewrite it, and we have all these instances. Just in my 40 years. There's all these really great instances where everyone says, oh, my God, like this is the way that it is. And then it changes, and then it changes, and then it changes. And that's what I'm saying. It's imperfect. It is naturally flawed. But, I mean, it's noble, and it is good, and we're studying it and stuff. But I feel like when you're studying a lot of this stuff that you find out, like, you know, maybe they find out this lady does this, and maybe they start to implement it. And then they realize, oh, my God, we made a huge mistake because now we have a whole slew of people that are
now
numb.
We have an entire
Opiates.
population that can just
making
walk
pain
in the
medicine, you know, out of the poppy plant, you know, coming up with laudanum and opium and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking genius. You know, people are in pain, and you take that edge off, and then you end up having morphine and, you know, all oxymorphone and all these unbelievable drugs. And then you realize, oh my God, what we've done. And the reason why we have the saying, the opiate of the masses, is because it dulls you. It dulls everything to a point where you just don't like feel anything anymore, and you're this dullard. It dulls you so much you can't even shit. Like your whole insides just stop up and just stop working because you're just. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like
we just went from like science to like bowel movement.
No, I'm just saying.
No, I'm super stoked about that.
In the beginning, it was really cool. You know, they were like, "Oh wow, this is really great stuff." Oh, whoops, everyone's wickedly addicted to it.
Yeah,
you know,
and can't shit.
Yeah,
do you think that's a science problem or a people problem?
I think it's a little bit of both.
And money problem.
Yeah, well, we'll just take that out of it. Yeah, take out the big money. But I mean, it's both. I mean, it's because we write off and say if someone studies it and they make, you know, because in science you have proofs, and in math you have like a proof, like you've proven something.
Yeah, theories. And
so then we write books and we write articles and we teach everyone, and everyone knows it. Everyone studies it. It is a fact, and then we have to change it again. You know what I mean? It's like, and because someone will disprove that.
Well, at least it's more accurate than the Bible. So that's all I can hope for.
Again, there's another opinion. You know.
Oh my God, that's not even an opinion. That's just science.
Yeah,
science to bowel movements
not
to
even
science
remotely.
versus God.
Yeah.
What a
Big.
fun podcast.
This
We're like, let's
is.
make
Yeah.
this podcast short, and then we dive into the most controversial topic: science versus God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get Adam even more revved up and anxious
Yeah.
and worked up. We don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
No.
So, Adam, you mentioned this before we jumped on the podcast, and I had no idea what this was, but you mentioned something about the 737 planes. Something's going on with them.
I know what it is.
You do?
Yes. The plane crash. They took all the 737s out because of this thing that they put in there that's supposed to stop plane crashes, but instead it kind of can cause them.
Well, the theory is that it caused it because they didn't train all the pilots on how it would act.
Yeah.
So, basically, like when the nose of a plane goes up too high,
It's supposed to correct that, correct?
yeah, it's supposed to correct that and nose the plane down. but as it noses the plane down, they don't understand how to like counteract that, and then the planes just crash. And
What the fuck?
yeah,
Yeah.
So the problem is not with the software itself; it's just with the training of the people.
it's
how to
both.
Use that software.
The software's too aggressive. The software's, from what I'm reading, the software's too aggressive, and the pilots aren't trained because they've never been in a plane that would do anything like that. It's supposed to be subtle, like traction control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Stability control. It's supposed to be subtle. It kind of just subtly pulls you back in line. But I mean, this is apparently pretty drastic. It like drops the nose of the plane, and then they start trying to counteract it, and before you know it,
There's
the
a
plane
crash.
goes down. I mean, they're-
system.
yeah, this is a brand new plane. There are 5
They
crashes,
pulled all-
or
yeah.
excuse me, 2 crashes in 5 months. 2 crashes in 5 months that killed like 400 people.
So then they pulled them all.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that responsibility on the company to correct their product. Just like I was in a marketing class in college back when the Tide Pod epidemic first started coming. Like, kids
Yeah.
started eating Tide Pods.
Yeah.
And the teacher was like, "Do you guys think that children, toddlers getting their hands on these Tide Pods and eating them, is that the company's fault, and should they take responsibility for this?" And most of the class was like, "No, they shouldn't do anything." And then the marketing teacher was like, "Listen, you're basically committing company suicide
Yep.
if you don't take responsibility for this."
Yep.
Because
you put the
that's
blame
your
on the.
product.
Yeah, you put the. No matter whose fault it is, if you put it on the people, then yeah, that's going to cause an uproar, and people are going to go say "fuck Tide." No, so instead,
Fuck Tide, bro.
yeah. So instead, they did the commercials with the warnings, and they put safety things on these big plastic containers.
I still can't believe all this shit.
What, the Tide eating thing?
Well, that Tide had to actually respond
I
to
agree.
this. Yeah, I mean, that'd be like eating tires. Like, kids are eating tires nowadays. Like, if I'm a tire manufacturer, I would refuse to
And
release
listen,
an ad.
Talk about a toddler, fine. But let's be fair. There was a whole group of older children who were doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, as
Just for the
challenges.
fuck. Yeah,
right?
like if my 2-year-old got it, I'd be like, oh, fuck, that's my fault.
Yeah.
And I understand that looks nice and it looks good, and he's going to put that, thing that looks like a candy in his mouth, but that's fucking my fault if Tide's on the floor. But there was
Right.
a whole generation that was much older that
And
was
then
doing it.
The
Yeah.
class, I mean, that was most of their reasoning. It was like, this is the parents' fault. They should be keeping an eye on their kids, blah, 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 blah. But as a company, you can't come out and blame the children or the parents of the children or anything like that, because these are the people who actually buy your product,
Yep. Yeah.
I do think it's ridiculous to blame a company for something like that. But, as a business, you got to take control of that responsibility of that.
We've talked about this before. That whole thing just pisses me off. I don't like it when people apologize for something that they have.
That they
Like-
shouldn't. Yeah, it's
Stupid.
Yeah, but it
Tide
has.
apologizing or putting commercials out and having to spend a single dime because, unfortunately, Americans are some of the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I
mean,
yeah.
statistically, we're some of the dumbest sheep on the fucking planet.
But they
Oh, yeah.
had to, or else it was basically business suicide.
No,
and
for
that
sure.
sucks. I mean, it sucks. I'm sure there was those higher ups were going, "Why the fuck are we having to do this?"
But who says it's business suicide?
Well, if you start saying it's not our fault, it's your fault, well, then you have all those people who, whether their kids did it or they knew somebody or didn't know anybody at all, are going, "Wait, they're saying it's our fault? I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have children. If that happened to me, it wouldn't be my fault." You have that whole mentality of like, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And Tide maybe wouldn't have gone completely down the shitter, but they probably would have taken a hit just from like, look how fucking angry
would-
America is about everything.
I know.
They
I know.
find
We're
something-
recreationally
Like,
offended over everything.
So
and they
can
would
you
have taken
imagine?
a hit, but I think it would have been an acceptable hit. And, of course,
But
they
they
have an
also
entire
avoided-
room of people that do this math. They say, how much hit are we going to take in the
Yeah.
stock market? How bad is it going to be? And then how expensive is it going to be for us to put out a new ad campaign? They have to literally ask that question. It's matter of fact, the scene from that movie Fight Club. He's like, I work for a major car company. And he goes, we look at how expensive it is to pay people off after a major wreck, and then
Yeah.
we look at how expensive it's going to be to do a recall. If the recall is cheaper, we don't do one.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. Like we just pay. It's cheaper to pay people millions of dollars than it is to do a recall because that could cost you $1 billion.
And for Tide, it was cheaper to do the probably little things than to lose. And they would have come back if there was there would have been a downfall in their sales. They probably would have come back. But to them, it was like, well, let's just avoid that altogether. Let's not be too proud to. And again, I agree with you. I don't think it's a Tide problem, but from a marketing point of view in their company, they have 20 people yelling at them saying you have to do these commercials or things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And nobody in that big of a company is going to take that risk and be like, nope, let's just not say anything. Or
the majority of the Tide users thought it was ridiculous too that they even had to release that campaign. But as a business, you have to.
Yeah.
Wasn't that right around like last year's Super Bowl or something like that?
No, this was
years ago.
2016 or something like that.
It was before I had Porter. So then I had him in 2016.
Oh, I thought that had been since we did the podcast.
No, it was before. Like, I remember the first Tide Pod eating thing where it was in the news was like right when I got pregnant with Porter. So it would have been like 2000, like October 2015.
Yeah, that sounds
maybe
about
November.
Right.
Yeah.
And time flies when you're
I know,
with
right?
fucking idiots.
Holy shit,
there was the
time does
incidents
fly.
where the toddlers started eating them first, just like because they thought it looked like candy,
Yeah.
But and then I don't know. I guess it was resurrected like 2 years later when the fucking teenagers started eating it like dumbasses as challenges.
And listen, we've all been teenagers and we all done stupid shit, but A, we didn't have the internet to A, put it online and then try to get other kids to do it. And B, I can't remember ever doing stupid shit like Tide Pods. What are some of the other ones? There were some other really shitty ones around that time that I just kept sitting there going, why?
There was the cinnamon challenge. There, everybody would put tons of cinnamon in their mouth, and it would you can't.
There was the tampon one, the alcohol tampons.
Yeah, the alcohol tampons.
Wait,
there was the
what?
one. There
What's
was the
the
one where you
alcohol
put
tampons?
alcohol in your eye, like vodka in your eye, and you could get drunk that way.
Yep.
So kids were turning up bottles of vodka in their eye and
just like the tampon alcohol. You soak a tampon in alcohol.
put it in your butt.
Well, if you're a woman, it was supposed to be you put up your vagina as well, and in your
Really?
butt. Yeah, it was never up your butt for women.
You don't put
Well,
tampons up your butt?
you can do butt chugging, which actually will make you drunk.
I do understand that, which is why suppositories and all that stuff work. But I read
I just don't understand why you put it in your vagina.
Well, why do they put Tide Pods in their mouth?
Yeah.
Like, they're stupid. We were all stupid at that young.
Yeah.
So if anybody did any of those things,
why do women put
just don't
tampons
listen
in their
to us
vagina
anymore.
anyways, Who knows?
Why did they do what?
Should I free bleed and show you? Have Anna free bleed.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Can we get that
Don't they
fucking
get those
campaign
cups?
going?
Like, what do they call those?
They're Diva cups, which I don't but there is a free bleed movement now. And so if you would like to know what that is,
I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've been in public.
Ask Anna to free bleed for a week, and then you'll go, please put a tampon in.
Yeah, there are women that think that that somehow men were the ones that made tampons and pads, and that they should be able to just bleed on their own.
There's a couple different people who do it. There's that, and there's other women who just have issues with using both of those things.
Yeah.
Now, there's always other options, like a Diva cup. I have a friend who uses a Diva cup and swears by it. The Diva cup basically came around when I was pregnant with Porter, which I didn't need one, and then now my tubes are tight and I barely, that happens. But people swear by the Diva cup. Throw it in the dishwasher, wash it up.
What the fuck is a Diva cup, and how
So
is
a
it
Diva
used?
cup is like a little rubber cup. I'm
Looks like
sure
a
it's
little
not. It's like
condom.
silicone, and basically you just put it up in you, and it catches the blood. And then when you go to the bathroom, you pull the cup out,
and you pour the blood out.
but only once a day. So it's not like a tampon where you put it all the time and you pour it out. And then when you're not using it, when you're done, you throw it in the dishwasher and just wash it up, and that's it.
I mean, I'm not a woman, so obviously my views are from a man's side, but that doesn't seem very sanitary.
Oh, it's super. It's way healthier.
Is it?
Yes, way healthier for you than tampons, pads, everything.
So I didn't realize until Anna told me one day how much fucking like chemicals and shit that tampons have.
Yeah.
That
horrible.
is insane. So she's been buying like organic tampons and stuff that are just like 100% cotton. But it's fucking insane
chemicals in
how
there?
much
Oh
poison
my God,
and
the amount of
chemicals are in
chemicals
tampons.
in tampons is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this whole movement of like natural tampons, which are the exact same, but even just tampons in general can be, toxic shock syndrome.
You're putting something inside your body.
Yeah, and some women just can't have that. It just is not comfortable for them, and it's painful and causes more cramping. So the Diva Cup is it's like $6, and you just use the same one over and over again. Super cheap and way more healthy for you. There's no additives, or it's a super healthy thing. So I'm glad we're talking
my
about
name's
this, guys.
Jamie, and I recommend the Diva Cup.
I recommend tubes tied because then you don't get it anymore.
Should that be our first sponsor, the Diva Cup?
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Yeah, that or the Trumpy Bear. Yeah, we can have one or the other.
Or we could do both.
We could put the Diva Cup on the Trumpy Bear and make it.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, or we could like brand the Diva Cup with a Trumpy Bear. Yeah.
And then all these women are putting Trumpy Bear up their
Up their
cooters.
puss. Yeah. See how shit goes free. Trumpy Bear's grabbing that puss. Yeah.
You try to regulate my uterus, get up in there.
Yeah. That actually would be like a cool judo move for Trump if you like were stuffing like a picture of some like cartoonish Trump up your vag and bleeding on it, like kind of taking back the control if you really hate Trump.
Wow.
That'd be good.
Yeah, that would be. Did you guys miss me?
Yes.
Something monumental happened, Jamie. You missed us, and you
I
texted
did.
us about it.
I know. I feel
And
really
you were
weird
like,
about
I
it.
actually miss you guys.
And I was like completely sober when I text you guys.
Oh my
Which
God,
makes
really?
it like more, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I did have 2 very interesting weeks. A lot of stuff happened, a lot of things. But yeah.
Honestly, it seemed like you were gone for like 2 months.
I know. I think
Yeah,
that's
it was
why
a
I said
long
I
time.
missed you guys. I was like, I feel like I haven't like done some good old talking and shit talking and going back and forth with anybody.
You
I was in a
haven't had
hotel
Adam
room for
piss you
5
off in a while.
days. Yeah, and then I was with my parents and the kids, and I was super sick. I got super sick. Yeah, I had a lot of stuff happen.
Before we end, I want to hear more about this convention because anybody who follows you on Instagram, your story was lit up with this like Halloween horror convention.
I could have kept going, and at some point I was like, there are people who like shouldn't, who like I have like church people who might follow me and like really be terrified. No, it was I had to go for work. I worked a show. It was the Trans World, and it's a Halloween attraction show. And it's huge. You can't go in unless you're over the age of 18. So that it is, think of the most gruesome, horrifying things you've ever seen in like a movie or a haunted house. And that's what it is.
But why do they do it during this
massive
time of year and not during October?
Right.
Or
I
November?
figured they'd get a lot more traffic in October.
No, because right now as they're down. So any people who go there either own haunted houses, own haunted woods, anything like that. This is their down season. So they go in and they buy, and you get everything cheaper at this trade show than if you were to go to these companies.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So they buy and then they have it all to get ready. And like to set up for some of these haunts takes like 5 months.
Jesus.
So yeah. So but they bring in millions every year. But they have the most extreme shit you will ever see.
Where was this?
St. Louis. And it's in
gotcha.
St. Louis every year. And you can only go if you have a booth, which is what I was working, or you have a haunt. So people off the street can't just buy a ticket and come in. You have to have credentials that show that you're a buyer and you're part of this haunt, or you own this haunted house or haunted maze or somewhere in the world, and then you pay for your thing and come in, and it's 5 days of just, it's fucking crazy. It was awesome.
So how did you get to go?
Because I was working a booth for my father-in-law.
Oh, he has haunting stuff?
No, but he has, he has the product, the jump pad. They have like a Halloween one.
Yeah.
And he's on vacation, and they didn't have anybody to do it. And I was like, I'll go and do it. And so I went And my dad came along because my dad is like a Halloween freak. And so he came and he bought a bunch of shit. He bought this like 10-foot tall animatronic pumpkin head thing that just like lights up and screams at you.
Like the legitimate movie pumpkin head, or like a there's
like a pumpkin on top of it.
No, these are, I mean, every booth there, everything is like their own. You should see, everything is like handcrafted. The masks there are just done, but I mean, I can't even explain how amazing it is and how gross and how disturbing everything is. Everything's so fucked up. There are women walking around naked with like body paint on. There's these creatures that walk around and just scare the shit out of you. There's just
Adam and
blood
I are opening
spraying
up a haunted
at you.
woods later.
It was awesome.
I heard Glenn say that the majority of the stuff was so awful you couldn't even post about it on Facebook.
I would say 90%.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Yeah, because it would like
90% of the things
people.
that I took videos of, I would send to Glenn, but I couldn't post on Instagram. You have to be over 18 to go in there, and I completely understand why. It's terrifying.
Shit. What was the most expensive thing that you saw in there?
Oh my God. I mean, $200,000.
200 grand?
Yeah, so I had a video of it. You might have seen it. It was this big animatronic guy who was probably 15 feet tall, and then he was holding a life-size woman in his hand, stabbing her with the knife.
Holy
And he's
fuck.
like this beast, and it looks so fucking real. But that's only what I saw. I was working a booth, so me and my dad would tag team, and we would get up, and I would go look at stuff, and he would, and things like that. But I probably saw about 80% of it, and it was terrifying. It was awesome. The special effects and some of this stuff, you look at it and go, how is that not a real person? And it's not. There's somebody hanging from their intestines from a ceiling, and they're screaming, and you're like, that looks like a real person. But it's not. It's a machine. I mean, it was awesome. It was so fucking cool.
When I asked you that question, I wasn't even in the fucking ballpark of 200 grand. I wasn't even at 100 grand.
They have,
Are you kidding me?
They come in there and they build up full-on 3-story haunted houses with like these like 9 foot around like live bees like with the wings moving. Like it's like movie material, full-on shit. And you can buy all the stuff there, but if you buy it there, it's cheaper than than coming back, contacting them, a couple months later and saying I want that. So
does that get old every day, just being around all that weird shit?
You know what? This was my first year doing it.
How many days long was it?
5. I didn't see everything in 5 days. So no,
it's huge.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's fucking massive. I didn't see the whole thing in 5 days, and we would get there early and walk around before they let the crowds in and try to see everything. But yeah, you don't see everything. I probably saw 80-90% of it, but I still didn't see everything. My dad would come back. He's like, did you see that fucking werewolf tearing the lady's head off? And I'm like, where? And he's like, well, that way. Well, it's so fucking big. You just wander around and just are terrified by everything. It was awesome. It was so fucking cool.
Were they like trying to scare people while they were there? Or was it just a demonstration?
I think it was just like a showcase thing.
Yeah, it was like a showcase, but part of the showcase, they would have people that would scare. And they would love it. Everybody there were people who own haunted houses. So there would be...
Why were naked ladies in body paint walking around?
Because there were artists there who were doing gruesome makeup and artwork. So then they had... Which, of course, my dad's like, you see the naked lady? I'm like, no, he's like, I had a picture. No, it's like, are you supposed to take pictures? He's like, they didn't care. And showed me like 20 naked lady pictures.
That's what Adam and I are going to do next year. Just go there and be like, yeah, we're professional body painters for Halloween.
Just take a Sharpie.
Yeah. And it's good. People. I mean, the smallest booth you can get there is like $1,500 for the 5 days. But like most people had booths that were like $3,700 for 5 days. And then the really big ones were like a lot, like 15 grand for the 5 days.
We're like a lot.
A lot, like 15 grand. But those are the ones who had like the full on haunted houses that you could walk through. They have them functioning and you can see all the special effects, and it was awesome. It was really fucking cool. So
nothing like that 200 grand one though. That's a house.
No, I know.
What?
I may repost that video because it was a terrifying thing. I put it on my feed when I was there, but obviously it disappeared because I don't know if I want that permanently tied to me.
Yeah. Some of that, Glenn told me that some of that stuff would be way too weird to put on Facebook.
Yeah.
It would just be freaky.
I mean, they have a whole section of these girls who are naked and they look real and they're like curled up in a fetal position dead with like blood coming out of their mouths.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for like a haunted house, but like they look like 14-year-old girls dead or like sitting in like a pool of blood, and it looks so real you're afraid they're going to jump up and like, well. And the very last day, we were packing stuff into my car and we were walking back to the hotel, and some guy had bought one. He was walking across this main street with this naked, life-size chick with like blood coming out of her mouth, and she's like gray looking dead. And I said to my dad, I was like, oh, look at that. Like, could you imagine if he walked 1 block north? Because everybody who was there was staying at the,
nobody would know.
Nobody would know. It was awesome. But
that's
disturbing.
crazy.
I'll tell you what's scary is how fucking tired Adam is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry.
Adam's pants are undone. Well, his belt. Sorry,
His belt's
his
undone.
His belt's
Yeah,
undone.
I'm sorry. I am unbelievably tired, and I've finally taken vacation, but I'm taking vacation in a day or two. But before I take vacation, I'm gonna have to work harder and faster.
Are
than
you
I've
going
worked in a long
anywhere or
time.
just like?
I think we're
just
gonna go to
stay?
we're gonna go to the lake. But
How many days?
yeah, it's just time. I'm sorry. Not
Well,
my
bro.
most verbose episode, but
It's fine. You
You're
need
fine.
that vacation. You take that vacation.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm tired.
Yep.
Anyway, since you're tired, this is Devin.
This is Adam.
This is Jamie.